apologetics to some extent is always going to be cultural. So if apologetics is about giving an answer for the reason for the hope that you have, there are going to be always two elements to it. One is, why do we have hope? And that core is always going to be the same. It's because of Jesus Christ. It's his life, death, resurrection. That's why we have hope. So apologetics ultimately flows to and flows from the cross, the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now there's another aspect of apologetics where you're seeking to give an answer to people who are asking, which are going to be culturally driven. Why do you believe there's truth? Why do you think there's meaning? Why do you think that's important? Why does this matter? And that is going to be culturally determined. So if I'm in the Middle East, I'm not debating about, does God exist? Because for a lot of people, that's a given. The question is, who is he? Now, what is more specifically different about the UK, and maybe Europe in particular, is in the UK, we have a type of questioning which is largely happy to write off the church. And within the more developed world, in and of itself, is utterly convinced that the things that the Christian faith teaches, which used to be regarded as good, are now regarded as bad. So if Christians were dismissed as do-gooders in the past, they're now seen as do-badders. What they actually believe is harmful and actually needs to be fought against. And British atheists have actually made some of this a global phenomena, but they've made it very much a phenomena back in the UK. Christians are not people to be respected and tolerated and listened to necessarily. They should be, ridiculed, despised, made fun of, and so on. Now, thankfully, the whole culture hasn't moved that way. It may do, but I think within the UK, therefore, the questions about the level of hypocrisy, if you like, within the church, or questions they've actually got about the influence of the church on society, right now are becoming partly some of the dominant narrative that's having to be dealt with. Now, that's also true, however, in other parts of the developed world. So I don't know how specifically UK focused we can say it is, but it's clearly part and parcel of it. And I think Christians need to be willing to admit where as a church we failed and where we've got it wrong, where things have gone wrong, because we can't always defend the actions of the church. There have been times when we've got it wrong, or handled ourselves wrongly, or responded in a way which is wrong. But the basis on which we're saying it's wrong is that we also look at, well, what would Jesus have had us do, have us say, how would he have had us responded? And we're judging it against that. So I think we need to be very clear in our apologetics concerning the person of Christ, where we're not wanting to change anything vis-a-vis the apologetics of our own lives or of our church, which are by definition going to fall short of that. And so we just need to be willing, I think, to admit that, and we can win back an audience that way. I think the forms of atheism in the UK have so successfully shut down access to understanding about the Christian faith for a while that a lot of people are now growing up with no knowledge of the Christian faith at all. So their knowledge of Christianity is close to zero. So whereas before there was an overhang and they had some idea, now you've got people who have no experience of church at all. Now, there are people like that in the US, but not that many. There are people like that in Australia, but not that many. Most of them have some kind of experience. We've now got a whole generation who have zero. And interestingly for them, therefore, when they talk about Christianity or what they think, they haven't got a clue at all about it, because they've never seen it, encountered it, experienced it, talked about it. And there can be an advantage of having a clean slate sometimes. To say, well, here you go, read this, tell me what you think. Let's talk about it. So there can be a bit of an advantage to that.